Hey heathens, welcome back to my Sisterwives responses. This is season 1, episode 4. Following all of y'all's advice, I did indeed get a bigger notebook. I have a feeling I'm going to need it. So this episode is about the birth of Truly, my cousin. Kody's 13th child, born on the 13th of whatever month it was. Which at first was superstitious, and then it wasn't. I don't know, that was kind of confusing. I thought it was kind of a cool coincidence. I mean, if you're going to have 13 kids, you might as well have a couple of cool coincidences while you have them. What's the point of having that many kids anyway? I mean, it's definitely not to love and take care of them. Maybe their 14th kid can be born on the 14th too. Wouldn't that be fun? This episode was triggering, y'all. I did not like it. I want to start out with maybe the obvious, caring for Christine during the labor. At first, I thought Kody did a pretty great job. I mean, he was driving her to the hospital. They were holding hands. He was pretty attentive. He was on his phone a little bit, which not the best, but also I've had 3 kids. Labors take a long time. Sometimes you got to check your phone. Him leaving in the middle of it to take a break, to kind of go shower, get some clothes, get Aspen. I wasn't immediately bothered by that. I mean, I wouldn't have done that. I was there for all of the time for all 3 of my children's births. But I also get that like labor is a long process and sometimes you need to step out. What bugged me there really wasn't that Kody left. I mean, the thing that happened later did bug me, but it wasn't that Kody left right then. It's that there are 4 adults in this family. Well, 5 adults if you count the Robin. There are 5 adults in this family. And Christine was left alone. And this whole time they've been talking about how one of the great benefits of polygamy is that you've got support. You've got people who are there for you, blah, 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 blah. Well, then if Kody needs to tap out, why didn't one of the other wives tap in? Why did Christine get left by herself in a hospital, which is a new environment for her? And if she's anything like me, probably something that's a little bit scary because you're raised in polygamy to be very anti-establishment. And so hospitals, police, all of that are pretty triggering. They're pretty scary for people like me. And so I can't imagine that was super comfortable for Christine. Even though the doctors and nurses were going out of their way to make her super comfortable, letting her know that they also had polygamist ancestors. So it's not that weird. And then it becomes apparent what Kody was really doing when he left the hospital room, even though he said that's not what he was doing. And look, I don't really have a problem with, well, I guess I do actually, because they're still not married. And they've already established that Christine is not cool with them kissing before they were married because Christine didn't do that. So that feels super disrespectful and very uncool. But it's not just what he's doing, it's also how he's talking about it. Because he's like, look, I've got a wife in labor. I'm not going to sit here and kiss my girlfriend. And then he sits there and kisses his girlfriend. Like, we see what you're doing. It's being filmed. You can't talk your way out of the thing that we see you doing. You can't gaslight us into believing that that's not, you're fucking doing it right there. And that behavior also kind of belied what Robin said in the previous episode when she was like, I was just heartbroken because of how I'd hurt Christine by kissing Kody when we got engaged. Then why were you kissing him when she was in labor? That's worse. That is a worse thing, because kissing right after you're engaged and maybe you didn't know that was the rule. I get it. I get that. But having already known that hurt Christine's feelings and then doing it, and there are cameras, she's going to see it. Oh man. No wonder that marriage didn't work out. I'm so glad Christine is out of that shit. The second thing I want to talk about is the part when Christine is like, I'm all for the epidural. That was amazing. It was so easy. It was so, she keeps going on about that. And that just seemed like such a great, visual of how resistant you are in polygamy and insular groups like that to Babylon or to the wicked world, right? You're like, oh, we're so much better. We're not going to do it that way. We're going to do home births where we don't use epidurals. And then you experience Babylon and you're like, oh, Babylon's pretty great. That was my experience. I grew up so afraid of this world and how wicked people were in it and all of the bad shit about, alcohol and sex and all of the wicked stuff. And then I tried it all and I was like, oh, it's pretty fucking great. It's just human. Humans are pretty fucking great. And you don't need to be scared of them. And honestly, I think that's probably the reason why all of Kody's kids and now most of Kody's ex-wives are no longer in the cult, because they got exposed to the broader world through this show. And in that exposure, they were decultified, which is probably why most of my family is still in it, because I left and then they shut down hard. They were like, circle the wagons, shut it down. Nobody else goes to college, because it's pretty nice out here. It's pretty great. It reminds me of when we were very little. Even now, my family still lives in these shitty trailers on the ranch compound in Wyoming, and tiny, just shit trailers with mold growing in the ceilings and the roof falling in. There's literally a hole in the floor of my mom's trailer right now. And for my entire childhood, we were future faked with the idea of someday we were going to get a house. Someday we were going to build a house and it was going to be a real house and it was going to be great. They are actually finally doing that now. They've been doing it for like 3 years. I think it's like a third of the way done. But when I left and I came out into the world and I got a job and then I got a mortgage, I was shocked at how easy it is to get a house. And then I was really fucking angry because we'd been intentionally kept in a shithole for my entire childhood because it was the righteous way, because we couldn't, taint ourselves with the stink of Babylon. Babylon stink is pretty fucking great, and it's not that hard, and it's pretty nice. The party at Robin's house was very triggering to me because there's like all of these kids like running around in this chaos. It reminded me of like how much I don't like big families. And that part where there's like 4 moms and 1 dad doll, and they're all fighting over playing the dad, because obviously the dad is the best part to play. Let's be real. All of the parts are shit. They're all shit. None of them are good. But if you have to play a character in Polygamy the video game, you definitely want to play the dad. And finally, the worst part of this episode is when Kody unintentionally, I think, acknowledges what this is all about when he says, "That's the business I'm in. Kids." Yeah. Kids are a business. They were a business for my dad. He had 16. They all worked for next to nothing, sometimes free, in his bakery, providing him with tons of free labor so that he could supply Yellowstone National Park with homemade bread. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I realized that there's a technical term for that. It's called labor trafficking. And hearing Kody say that on a show that is being televised nationally, exploiting his children for money, was pretty fucking gross. Because those kids didn't have a choice. Kody and his wives, they got to say, oh, this is for God. This is for us to like spread the gospel of polygamy, and we're doing this for God, blah, 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 blah. Sure, maybe, but those kids didn't have a choice. Their entire childhood got blasted on national television, and I doubt they made any money from it. I'm actually also really pissed at TLC for that too. Like, TLC should be ashamed for doing that, for exploiting children in that way, because you knew TLC. You had to know, TLC producers, what you were filming and what you were doing. How dare you? How fucking dare you? If I were my cousins, I would be in talks with an attorney about filing a lawsuit against TLC, because that is gross exploitation of children. Truly's birth, the most private, intimate, first moment of her life, was filmed and then put on national television without her consent. I think that is disgusting. I think that's exploitation. I think that's labor trafficking. And shame on you, TLC, for doing that to my family. Anyway, that's my review of episode 4. follow me for the next one, I guess.